So, how is this wrenching transformation being put into place? Well, there are 4 very specific routes being used. In the rural areas, it's called the Wildlands Project. In the cities, it's called Smart Growth. In business, it's called public-private partnerships. And in government, it's called stakeholder councils and non-elected boards and regional government, or Reinventing government. Let's take them one at a time. First, the Wildlands Project was the brainchild of Earth First's Dave Foreman. And it literally calls for what he called, the word he used, the rewilding of 50% of all the land in every state back to the way it was before Christopher Columbus set foot on this land. In 1983, when Foreman first dreamed up the scheme for the Wildlands Project, he said, quote, "It is not enough to preserve the roadless, undeveloped country remaining. We must recreate wilderness in large regions, move out the cars and civilized people, dismantle the roads and dams, reclaim the plowed lands and clear cuts, and reintroduce extirpated species." Destruction of human civilization was his goal. In reality, the Wildlands Project is a diabolical plan to herd people off the rural lands and into human settlements. Crazy, you say? Yes. Impossible? Not so fast. From the demented mind of Dave Foreman, the plan became the blueprint of the UN's Biodiversity Treaty. So now the scheme is international in scope with the power of law. Thomas Lovejoy, a science advisor to the Federal Department of Interior, said, quote, "We will map the whole nation, determine development for the whole country, and regulate it." And your local elected officials are helping to implement this insanity. Yet, they are quick to deny that such ideas have their origins on the international level, and they accuse me of wearing tinfoil hats and hearing voices. Well, here's a voice I hear. Again, Maurice Strong said at the UN's Earth Summit, quote, "Isn't the only hope for the planet that the industrialized nations collapse? Isn't it our responsibility to bring that about?" And that is the true agenda we face. But how do you remove people from the land? Well, one step at a time. There are many tools in place to stop human activity and grow the wilderness, denying grazing rights and water rights on public lands. It becomes more difficult and more expensive to run the farm or the ranch, and eventually it goes out of business. Lock away natural resources by creating more national parks. It shuts down the mines, and they go out of business. Call every mosquito-infested swamp and occasional mud puddle of wetlands, and ban any development around it. Invent a spotted owl shortage and pretend it can't live in a forest where timber is cut. Shut off the forest. Then when no trees are cut, there's nothing to feed the mill. The mills then go out of business. And so the whole town is there are no jobs. The governor of Maryland is enforcing an agenda without a vote by the legislature. He's doing through executive action called Plan Maryland that will lock away over 400,000 acres of land banned from any development for at least 20 years. One of the key provisions is a policy to ban septic tanks as a means to protect the Chesapeake Bay, even though there is no evidence that septic tanks do any damage whatsoever. The only result of this ban will be to make it impossible to live in rural areas, unless you want to spend several $1 million on a private water treatment plant. Getting people off the rural lands and into the cities is the real purpose, not environmental protection. The Wildlands Project comes in many names, in many programs. Wilderness areas, comprehensive land use plans, bikeways, greenways, heritage areas, land management, rails and trails, open space, wolf and bear reintroduction, conservation easements, and many more. Each of these programs is designed to make it just a little harder to live on land, a little more expensive, a little more hopeless. process is simply herding people off of rural lands and into human habitat areas, or cities.